It's a business. Like, it's strictly business. Yeah, it's a business, and you got to treat it as such. Like, I treat, like, every time I go to my practice, like, a job. Like, it's a job interview, you know? Like, how I show up every day matters. Even if I don't feel like showing up, you know, how I interact with my teammate matters, how I interact with my coaches matters. And it's just preparing me for having a professional career wherever I go, basketball or just, like, you know, in like a regular corporate life or just, like, what I'm doing. But I would say it's a business, but then I'll also say, like, every day does really matter. Like, how you show up matters. Like, how you show up every day is what's going to give people confidence to invest in you or not.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to 2 Decades Deep. I am your host, Taylor Howard, and I am so excited for this interview. We are in LA, okay? Like, we traveled for this one, and the guest that I have today, she literally, in the midst of March Madness, in the midst of almost graduating, in the midst of her vlogging and doing all her stuff, she graciously got us in within a week. So we have Dominique Darius.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. I'm so excited.
Me
and
too.
Something that I love about your podcast is when you start each episode, you give them their flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that you're in the guest seat, and this is actually the studio that she produces out of, I'm going to give you your flowers.
Okay. So
we have, in 2021, ranked 26th on ESPN's Hoop Girls Recruiting Rankings. Finished his semester early and enrolled in UCLA mid-season ad, USC captain, Big Ten president and USC rep for the United College Athletes Association. You're a vlogger, YouTuber, podcaster for Beyond the Jersey, and you are about to graduate and get your bachelor's in communications.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you deserve all the flowers, and you did this all at 23 years old.
Yeah. I appreciate that a lot. It means a lot. It's weird being interviewed because I'm so used to, like, giving people their flowers, but no, and hearing, like, my accomplishments so far. So no, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. Before we get into a game, I just want to know from your perspective, like, when did you realize that you wanted to take basketball seriously?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story. So, like, this boy I had a crush on when I was in, like, third grade. I played a lot with the guys in recess, and we would always play basketball. Like, that was just always what we did, play basketball, tag, like the typical things you do at recess. And I remember they're like, why don't you try for the girls team? I was like, no, I'm not doing that. They're like, no, do it. So I'm like, I pull up with, like, no, like, low socks, like shorts, just a random t-shirt, and I make the team. And I'm confused because I'm like, I've never really played. I'd never really practiced. And then from there, just kind of worked on my game and just, like, really fell in love with it. I think the first team I played was, like, a CEO team, and it's like a club, but it's not AAU level. Mm-hmm. Played in that, just loved it. Like, was getting all the shoes and, like, all, like, the accessories. My mom would tell you, like, I wanted every new shoe that came out just because I was so passionate about playing, feeling good, looking good, and all that at, like, what, 5th grade, 4th grade. I think from there, that's just when, like, my passion for basketball started. My parents had me in all types of sports when I was younger. So I ran track, I did soccer. I wanted to do lacrosse. My mom didn't want me to do lacrosse, wouldn't let me. Obviously basketball and things like that. So I just had a wide array of different sports, and then basketball was just the one I stuck with. So yeah, that's how I got involved in basketball.
Story. It's giving love in basketball for real.
Oh no, no. But, like, low key, it was like, that was, like, our inspiration. But then it's like, you know, that was 4th grade.
It just culminated, right?
Yeah, like
it culminated from there.
Yes.
But I do think it's interesting how you can get introduced to something from something so simple, and then it turns into being, like, a lifelong journey.
Yeah, for
sure. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, before we get into the nitty gritty, I do want to start with this game. It's called Overtime or Out of Bounds.
Okay.
So overtime is what you agree with, and out of bounds is what you disagree with.
Okay, cool.
All right, yeah. Don't think too much into it. You ready? Okay. A clutch free throw is more nerve-wracking than a buzzer beater.
I would say overtime. I feel like I feel like shooting a clutch free throw, like, everybody's watching you, right? Like, I feel like when you're hitting a buzzer beater, like, everybody's watching you, but it's like no one knows who's really gonna shoot the shot. But, like, right, as a free throw, your teammates are watching you, your coaches are watching you, the fans. So it's like, oh, I gotta make this, you know? So I would say, yeah, the free throw is definitely the hardest one. Yeah.
8 a.m. classes should be banned.
In season, I think they should be banned. I'm a morning person, so I like to get up early. But in season, Like when we had practice and all that, I don't. And like maybe we got back from like a long road trip, I would probably say out of bounds. Yeah,
I
can't
feel
do
that. TikTok comments are better than the videos.
Overtime, 100%.
Oh, 100%.
100%. The comments be having me rolling more than the video itself.
No, literally. Like that's what makes me laugh, honestly.
No, definitely the comments, yeah.
Online classes are harder than in person.
Out of bounds. Yeah, out of bounds.
You aren't a true college student if you've never pulled an all-nighter.
I would say out of bounds. I don't agree with it. It depends on your major. Like I'm in communications, so I don't need to be up all night unless I waited to write a paper last minute. So I would say out of bounds because I mean, like for my teammate, like Clarice, shout out to Clarice, Dr. CC, shout out to her in Brooklyn too. They're like pre-med on the pre-med track, and Clarice is about to graduate. But for them, they be up all night because I mean they have to. There's so much content, so I would say out of bounds. I don't agree with it, but I know I respect people that do that.
To stay up all
I just
night.
wouldn't do that.
FaceTime is better than texting.
Oh, overtime. 100%. Yeah.
Few more. Trash talking is essential and a part of the game.
Overtime for sure. I be talking trash to my teammates. They'll tell you they hate practicing against me because I'll be talking.
You know,
it's like it's just a good. It's like it makes it fun.
It's
like,
a good banter.
Yeah,
and it hypes people up.
Yeah, like it's fun. Like it's never disrespectful, but it's always like friendly and like, okay, I'm gonna get you back. So.
Fun fact, I actually used to play basketball.
Really?
Eons ago. I was kind of weak though, but I did trash talk.
Really?
So it was interesting because it's like I was trash talking like from the bench, but I still, now I'm trying to go in on myself. No, but honestly, like I did think that it like hyped up everybody else.
It made it, yeah, like it gets everybody else going. Like I feel like, yeah, no, I agree. I think even if you're not on the court, it makes it fun. It entertains the bench. Like I'm not playing this year, so like I'd be talking trash and like me and my teammates. So I agree, 100%.
Yeah,
makes the game more interesting.
100%. And lastly, March Madness is the best time of the year.
Oh, overtime, 100%.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, thanks for playing. I aligned a lot with what you said, but we're gonna talk about USC. We're gonna talk about March Madness a little bit later, but I want to start from the beginning and go back to when you were in the process of recruiting and when you decided to ultimately go to UCLA. So can you just talk a little bit about what that process looked like and then what stood out to you as you were pursuing colleges?
Yeah, I think for me, I went to boarding school coming out of high school. I mean, I went to boarding school for high school, right? So that means like I stayed at a dorm. You know, I'm basically used to being away from home. So I was not really like set on staying home, being close to home. I mean, I lived in Jersey at the time, and I've lived kind of all over because my dad played in the NFL, and I was never like, I'll have to be home. So I think for me, like going to UCLA was like, yeah, like I'm gonna experience something different, if that makes sense. And I've lived in Cali before, but I think coming out of high school, your perspective is much different compared to when you finally get into college because you don't know what you don't know. I'm not saying that my experience was bad at all, but I think my experience at UCLA was really good. You know, the coaches were amazing for the time being that I was there. They helped me grow as like a woman, and that's like what their cornerstone is like helping us grow beyond the court. And I think they did that for me. You know, the year and a half, 2 years I was there. But I think the whole recruitment process in itself, it was really just kind of like your eyes are just wide open. Like you just don't know. And I remember my AAU coach would tell me all the time, like, you know, just like kind of weed it out. But it's hard because you don't really know what you're looking for, really. I think nowadays it's a little bit easier, kind of. I mean, maybe not because there's like money involved and stuff like NIL and things like that. And like you could go where like you're getting paid the most. And at the time, that wasn't the case for me. Like I was just picking a school because the education, the coaching, like the culture, like the team dynamics and things like that. And that was UCLA for me. So, but yeah, that's kind of how how the recruiting process went for me. I had a lot of options coming out of high school. But for me, it was like the program, the coaching staff, and like academics was really, really key for me. Like I wanted to get a really good degree. So,
no, I think that's really crucial. And I think, okay, you went to boarding school, you went to UCLA. We all understand being athletes. You have to manage and balance a lot anyway, right?
Gosh, yes.
But going to college is a whole nother ballgame. So can you just talk a little bit about your transition from high school to college and how you balanced like your athletes, being an athlete and then also a student as well?
I feel like because I went to boarding school, it prepared me really well. So like my typical day at boarding school is like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. class, 8 a.m. breakfast, like at the dining9 a.m. class, maybe 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and then I practice with my team, right? And then even in high school, like I traveled, like we traveled to North Carolina, we traveled, like we drove a lot of different places. So I kind of was like kind of acclimated to like traveling, balancing school, because Blair Academy is like one of the best educational high schools in the country. So it's not like I'm going to like a lame school and also playing. I'm not, but it was challenging. Like I had to really stay on top of my work. So I think for me, going to UCLA and just being in college, it wasn't that hard of adjustment. I feel like I'm a pretty organized person, but I think one thing that I probably did struggle with is just like no one is like telling you what to do really. Like it's like you're kind of on your own. Like you got to go to your classes, you got to be on top of your work, like you got to find the study habits that work best for you, and then you have to also like try to be the best player you can be, like get in the gym on your own, find trainers around in the area, especially if you are not from the LA area or not from where your school is at. Like you got to do your own research, and I think just finding your way, like you're going from being like the oldest, the top dog in high school to being around grown women, like in college. So it's like I had teammates that were my age. Like, oh, they're so old. Now I'm their age. And it's like my team is saying I'm so old. So it's like, and it's just a different dynamic. And there's just a lot to learn. So I think the transition was tough at first, just because it wasn't because I was homesick. It was just like all the other dynamics. But I did feel like I had a pretty good foundation for that. But it was still definitely a transition regardless of that.
You said that it made it difficult because of all the dynamics. Can you name a couple examples of what that was?
Yeah, just like the time requirement you have being an athlete. I mean, that's something that we're talking about now as like the president of a player association. Just like we need to be paid for like the time we put in. Like we put in more than a 9 to 5. Like you wake up, you maybe have 8 a.m. lift, and then you go to class for 4 hours, and you come back. Then you go to practice, you lift, you film, and then you got to get up extra shots. Like and by the time you get home, it's like 7. And I think for me, like that dynamic was just so new to me, because it's literally a job. Like it's literally a job. Like they gave you a scholarship to perform, and you could potentially be getting like money, NIL money to perform. And then you have to be the best student. You have to be the best friend, the best teammate, the best daughter, the best girlfriend. But you know what I'm saying? There's so many different dynamics that you have to juggle, and it's like, how do you do that as an 18, 19-year-old coming into high school or coming into college? Like I think for me that was like, whoa, like this is a lot, and sometimes it can be transactional, because you have your coaches that are making a lot of money, that are trying to keep their jobs, they need to win, but then you're like, oh, like I'm just like 18, I'm just trying to have fun, like, and just like this is new, and it's like, no, like it's business, and I think that dynamic is definitely like one of the toughest things I've seen from myself, but then also like even like younger teammates that I've had throughout my college career.
Yeah, just what I've seen. Like when me personally, like I wasn't an athlete in college, but the extracurricular activities, and I was involved in a sorority, and it just was so taxing. And then at the end of the day, I was like, what am I left with? Like at the end of the day,
your cup be empty.
Literally, your
so
cup is empty.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to know for you, because you kind of like touched on this a little bit, like I'm trying to be the best at everything. How are you able to separate your sport and your identity, or is that something that you can't really do?
That's a tough question, because I feel like I wouldn't say I've cracked the code, but I'm getting to that. Like I feel like freshman year Dom was just rough. And I've talked to like my old UCLA coaches about this, just like how I was so like basketball, like I had to work out, and not saying that it's not working out, but it's like I was so narrow-minded, and I think, like, again, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like I can't blame my 18-year-old self for not knowing, but I think it's hard, because you want to balance like being the best self, but then also being the best in everything. And I think for me, I like, especially this year not playing, I was able to take a step back and just like really work on myself, because I don't have the pressure of performing. I show up every day, I practice against my teammates, like I perform in that space, but I don't have to play a game. I don't have to. There's not 1,000 or millions of people critiquing my performance. So I think for me, being able to like just like internally work on myself, with whether that's my relationship with God or strengthening my relationships with my friends and family, and like really finding my identity in that, and not just like performance, because I think it was hard not playing basketball, and I played basketball my whole life, and having to like sit out a year, and just taking a step back, like, okay, like how can I use this to like build myself up? And I feel like I talk to my teammates about this all the time. Like even though I'm not playing, I feel like I'm I'm the most confident I've ever been in my life, from on the court, off the court, even though I'm not able to perform on the court. But because I did that internal work, and I recognized like, okay, my identity was in basketball for so long and has been. Okay, well, something needs to shake, because like something needs to switch up, because this is not working. Like you have a bad game, bad practice, your coach is getting on you, and like your whole day is ruined, right? Like, or you don't have energy to expand yourself in other areas, like, creating your own business, or hanging out with friends or like doing things that like actually are expanding yourself, you know, because your cup is empty, right? And I think that comes from just like not having a solid foundation, just who you are as a person, not letting, you know, the trials and stuff like that wave you from that, because you're so like you're grounded in like, okay, no matter if I perform great, bad, no matter if my coach yells at me or not, no matter if I have a bad grade, like I'm grounded in my identity in Christ, or I'm grounded in my identity with like this is who I am, because not everybody is a believer, but so I would say for me that was like the cornerstone for me, and like that was what everything like switched for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I was in college and I was a student anchor, I remember that I felt like my self-worth was contingent on whether or
Yeah.
not someone validated if I did a good
Yeah.
job or
Yeah.
not. And so I definitely resonate with how if things are like performance based, it can be really attached to like who you
Mm-hmm.
are as an individual rather than it's just like, okay, this is just a growth
For
opportunity
sure.
or this is just a part of me, but it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
Can you also talk a little bit about the other things that you did to like pour into yourself? I know you said
Mm-hmm.
like you decided to pour into your family, you
Mm-hmm.
decided to pour into your relationship with God, but like what are some of the tangible steps that you took?
Yeah. I mean, so I started journaling a lot more, doing that. I also say like, I mean, I know some people have like mixed feelings with affirmations, but my affirmations specifically like just are like I'm a child of God, like I'm enough, like I'm beautiful, like I'm wonderfully, uniquely, wonderfully made. Like those are like my affirmations. And for me, it was more so like saying those things to myself every morning, like before I touch my phone, before I get out of bed, like saying that to myself, because if I'm not gonna tell myself, no one's gonna tell myself that, you know, like I can't look, like you said, I can't look for external validation or external people to validate me if I don't even feel valid, if I can't validate, or I can't validate myself or lift myself up. So it's more so like that thing, or doing affirmations. I would say like even just being very mindful of like my mind throughout the day, like if I'm trying to like overcompensate or be people pleaser, or thinking about too much what someone has to say, you know, like, or caring too much, you know. I think there's a fine line, like you don't want to be an a-hole, or you don't want to be like rude, but it's like what everybody projects onto you, you don't have to pick it up and carry it, you know. Like if someone doesn't think I'm enough, I don't got to carry that with me every day. Like I'm not gonna put that in my bag and be like, yeah, I'm not enough. Like no, that's their opinion, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, like being self-aware of like what I'm consuming, whether that's like TV shows, music, like my teammates make fun of me because I have on my phone, I do not listen to explicit music. Like like it won't even show up on my phone. It's like just certain things I just don't want in my mind, you know, like I like trying to guard my ears, if that makes sense. And so for me, just being very like I wouldn't say strict, but very disciplined with like what I'm consuming, how I'm talking to myself, what I'm thinking. If I'm thinking, trying to deter that thought to something else, doesn't have to be like toxically positive, but like neutral. Like, hey, like I'm just improving today, or like this skill's taking me a while to get, but like I'm getting better, you know, like I'm 1% better. Like those things I feel like have helped me grow every day. It's like baby steps, but it's definitely been like extremely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I agree that like the things that you consume can get into your heart
Oh, for
and then
sure.
it can manifest. So I
For
totally
sure.
agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to back up a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because the reality is a lot of people where they start is not always where they finish.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to talk a little bit about transferring to USC. How did you
Mm-hmm.
know that USC was the right fit for
Mm-hmm.
you?
I mean, for me, it was more so like playing opportunity, and also like I still want to make sure I was going somewhere had a great education. And you know, mind you, like my career at USC hasn't turned out the way I envisioned it to, and that happens. But I think for me, USC was the school that like would have given me all the things, even outside of basketball as well. I think UCLA did a good job as well, but I thought UCLA was like USC was like a step up for that, and it has been. You know, I think me being able to like utilize my resources and just knowing like the weight of the degree, you know, I think that was like the main thing for me. And so going to USC was hard because it's like crosstown rivals, you know. It's like but it's at the same time, it's like no, like I felt at the time that was the right decision for me, just playing wise and just development wise, and then like also like academic, and it was, and so from there, like it was a hard decision because I did get some backlash. Like I know my old coaches from UCLA's were mad at me for a little bit, but we hashed it out, we talked it out and things like that, and things like that. But that transition was definitely tough because again, it's like another you're transitioning to something else, and that's always tough. But that was some of the main reasons why I chose USC.
And if you're comfortable sharing, like what were some of the tough adjustments that you had to make
Hmm.
going from UCLA to USC?
Yeah, I mean the location, right? Like I don't think you guys have been to campus, but it's in downtown LA, which is not the best place, location for a school, but going like compared to like Westwood, right? Which Westwood is like it's just different. Like it's just drastically different. I think location was tough for me, and then also just being around new teammates, new coaches, like finding my way around campus. Like I didn't know where I was going. Like I was so used to like UCLA, and also like I went to college during COVID, so half of my first half of my or first half year was like online. So like I didn't know where my classes were at UCLA. I was all online, and it was kind of like the same thing. I felt like a repeat of like I don't know where anything is. I don't know anybody on campus. During COVID, you're not talking to people face to face, so it's like when you see them in person, you're like, is this the person I saw on Zoom, or is that not? So that was tough. But I would say like that COVID, location, teammates, just new coaching staff, and just being in a new environment really was like the toughest adjustment for me.
And can you talk about what are some of the things that you did to not reacclimate, but
Mhm.
to get adjusted to that school?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wasn't really. I've always been like extroverted, but or extroverted, yeah, extroverted, right? But I think when I got to college, I was like really introverted, and because I didn't know anybody, so I really was like, okay, if I'm gonna have a good experience here at USC, and I'm gonna like get to meet people, I have to talk first, Like I feel like so. I think for me, like I was engaging with my classmates because now it's past COVID, so I'm going to class every day, and just really like me like pouring into like other people in other areas like my academics and like talking to my professors, talking to my classmates, building relationships, friendships, hanging out with my teammates a lot. And I think for me like that helped my adjustment, just getting to know people really, not just like basketball. That I think that helped my transition a lot.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about your teammates. So, can you just talk about some of your favorite memories that you have with them?
Oh, there's too many. There's so many. I love my teammates. First and foremost, I love my teammates. They're like my best friends. They're like my sisters. I'm really sad because like I actually am transferring from USC, and like everybody knows, like I redshirted this year so I could get my degree in a master's program next year. And so it wasn't a secret, but I would say for me, like just even like how my teammates have handled like my situation and how they've been like very intentional with me. And I love my teammates so much just because they're just fun. Like I've said this like a while ago, but it's like I could walk in the locker room and I could have a terrible day or just like an exhausted day, and I walk in, I'm just smiling because like I'm happy to see them, or like they're like joking with me, or like they call me the grandma on the team, whatever. But I don't know, they just make my day, and I think it's just very refreshing. They're very selfless, they're very considerate, and I think it's hard to find that in a team dynamic, especially when everybody's such a high achiever and like almost perfectionist, and they're just everybody's very like welcoming. We're all different. We all come from different walks of life. But like when you get in that locker room, when you get on the court, like all that goes out the window, and like no one really cares. It's just like, hey, you're my teammate, and like I love you. So it's like a sisterhood. So yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that because being in a sorority, ooh, being in the sorority, I can definitely relate to the fact that like this is my chosen family. We are
Mhm.
choosing to be with each other, be in
Mhm.
community, and love and accept each other for where we are,
Mhm.
and also call each other higher. And so for you, I definitely think that support is everything, especially
Mhm.
because I mean you are at a very high caliber school.
Mhm.
You are very front facing in the media,
Mhm.
and so I think that having support is
For sure.
is very important. And so, speaking of just being kind of in the limelight, in the media a lot, can you talk about what it's like for you to play with like Juju Watkins or Kiki Iriafen, just to name a few, or
Mhm.
TVO, and how you all are all able to recognize your own pieces to the
Mhm.
puzzle?
Mhm. Actually, it's crazy because we just talked about this today before practice, like how everybody's role is important and maybe different, but everybody has a piece of the puzzle. Like the goal is to win that national championship, and everybody holds a piece to that, right? And you have to put it together. Like everybody has to put it down and like make the picture. And I think, I mean, they're amazing players like Juju, Kiki, TVO, and we have a Rhea, like Kennedy. Like I could go down the list, like so many amazing people and just talent on our team. I think the difference between us and other teams is like no one like carries like their stature with them. It's like Juju, Kiki, like everybody just acts like themselves. Everybody's just themselves, and I think that's important because the media scene, like we like joke, like we'll send each other TikToks of like people fangirling over someone, or like someone made an edit of someone and be like, why do they make an edit of you? Like because it's like that's like my sister. Like I don't, how the media views us is not how we view each other, and I think that's why it's refreshing because it would be different. Like, everybody was like starstruck by each other, but it's like that's not the case. Like everybody just wants to see each other succeed. We all have the common goal of winning an Natty, and then after that, it's like, okay, how can I help you? And I think that's what makes it so powerful and makes it so refreshing is that like no one's like looking at each other like, oh my gosh, they're this and that. Even though they're amazing players, like no one's taking away with that, but it's just like that's my teammate.
I love that perspective. And I think that also plays into your confidence as well, because you know that like who I am and what I bring to the table is different, but it's something that is very
It's
unique
valuable.
to me.
Yeah, it's still valuable.
Yeah, and I love that you said earlier in the conversation that you've never felt so confident in who you are. What are some of the things that you've recognized about yourself within this season that you haven't in previous seasons?
It's actually funny that you asked that because I don't know who I was talking to. I think it was like my dad or something. But like, I wouldn't say I was like the most approachable person my prior years in college. I feel like, especially just, I didn't have like a wake up call. Like, I feel like your wake up calls are just like kind of what transforms you and like prunes you to the person you need to be. But I would say I was so into myself for so long. And I think this year, because I wasn't playing, I was like, okay, how can I give and all that. And I think for me, like, I found so much value in like serving my teammates. But then like on top of that, like, I mean, I'm speaking this from myself. I'm pretty sure my teammates are gonna laugh when I say this, but like there's like there's like a bigger gravity towards like just like my interactions with my teammates. Like it's not what it was 2 years ago. I mean, it's different teammates, but I think the person I was 2 years ago wasn't as kind or wasn't as like approachable or people didn't feel as comfortable being around me. You're right, and I think because I changed that like energy into like serving and like being very like for other people and like obviously taking care of myself first and foremost, but like being very considerate of other people, I think that's what gravitates like my teammates towards me. And I could connect from the freshman to like the oldest person on our team. And I think that was like what changed for me. And I think knowing that and being able to like go through what I went through and then and still be here, not like physically, but just like still be like able to succeed and do all the things that I'm doing and be happy. It gives me confidence because like, okay, if I could do well when I don't feel like all the things are stacked with me or like all the odds are stacked against me, then I just have so much confidence because imagine when I am in the situation where like they're like my cards are for me. And I think for me, like that's been like the biggest thing is just like I was able to basically succeed in like a tough environment, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people can see that. I mean, in your vlogs about how you're always like that positive person for everybody, and you're always with every single teammate, and you really are that glue, and it shows in your vlogs. And I also love how you are just so committed to the reroute, to the process, to whatever life comes your way. I think that's a very phenomenal trait that a lot of people don't have. So
thank you. I
shout out
appreciate
to
that.
you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So we're going to shift gears a little bit and let's talk a little bit about your advocacy. And we know that you are the Big Ten president of the United College Athletes Association. Can you talk a little bit about how you even found that and what's the push for you to be a part of that?
Yeah, so it was last April, I think. It was after March, after the tournament and stuff like that. Andrew Cooper and Michaela Pivick, Andrew Cooper went to Cal, Berkeley, and Wazoo, or Washington State, for those that don't know. And then Michaela actually went to Oregon State, played basketball. He ran track. And they reached out to me because they were doing like a lot of research on like, the revenue sharing that's about to come into place next year. And just like all the things that are like wrong with college, like all the things that could be better with college athletics. Let's just say that. And how, being an athlete is a business. Like we do literally have working, schedules, right? And I think for me, my motivation was to make sure like the next generation of girls come into college with a better environment, equal, equity and like equal pay and like not having some of the same experiences I had, right? And just like a level of protection for athletes. I feel like pros have it, but like there's literally not many protections for athletes in college, and that's kind of saddening. I mean, there's multiple athletes that have committed suicide, in college, and not much has been done to kind of prevent that, and players that get pushed through to play injuries, and these are stories from players all over the country. And I think for me, when they reached out to me, I was intrigued by, they're saying like, oh, revenue sharing. But then once I told my story, it became more about like making college better for the next generation. And so now we have athletes from all over the Big Ten, SEC that are really committed to like pushing this movement forward. And why I care is just to literally to make it a better space and to make sure that women are treated how they should be and how they always should have been. But now that women's basketball is starting to pick up and people are seeing that as profitable, I think that now people are starting to listen when they should have been listening. But, money talks, right? So I think now it's just making sure that, all athletes are protected, but specifically women's basketball and female athletes are able to, capitalize off of their name and capitalize off of their talents and be protected.
Yeah, and in 2021, I believe it was like July 1st, 2021, that's when the NIL, name, image, and likeness, like really started to come about.
Right.
And can you talk a little bit about what's your experience? I mean, you were in college just for a little bit before it got enacted, but can you just talk a little bit about of how that's benefited the women's game and particularly basketball?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you have people like that are able to provide for their families, right? Like, I mean, before you just came to college just for the degree. I mean, people would struggle to eat. I mean, people still do struggle to eat, right? But now there's more opportunity to get paid for what you do, or like pay. It's really pay for play. Let's just call it what it is. And so now you get paid to play, right? So I think for a lot of people, I've seen they've been able to like be the, not I would say breadwinner, but bring money into their family to help them, like help them pay bills or help them, buy whatever they need, like just the necessities. And I think that in itself has been very good, but there's also like a lot of gray areas with NIL too that, it's a long story, but I think for me, I think the positives have been being able to see people make money and to provide, and even provide for themselves, put themselves in maybe a status that they weren't, a financial status that they didn't have before coming to college, and for women to really be paid for what we do. And I mean, other athletes too, but specifically women.
And can you just talk about like the feelings that you have now that the women's basketball exposure has just quite literally exploded, especially within the last 2 years? Like, how does it feel to be on the brink of that?
I think it's pretty cool. I think last year was like a little bit was more of a shock than this year. I think last year was the first year like we really saw like it come to fruition like physically. I mean, there's been like peak points like in March specifically where you see like a lot of viewership, a lot of people being fans. But I think now with social media, there's a lot more companies like investing into women's sports, which is allowing people to see it more often. Like there's just more coverage just in general. There's a lot more people caring about it. And I think it's just super cool because like women deserve it. Like we work just as hard as the men. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we work just as hard, and it's not always like compare one or the other. But I mean, that has been the comparison for years, like, right? Like, oh, women are not as fun to watch. And it's like that narrative is clearly changing over time. So for me, I think it's just amazing to see like us finally get the coverage we deserve. And I mean, there's still strides to go for sure, but just like the baby steps of like what women really should have been getting for decades.
Yeah, it's literally been amazing as someone who loves women's basketball, like even seeing like in the W, Unrivaled, seeing college basketball. It's been really amazing to see that on all levels, everyone is starting to be accounted for, and people are really starting to invest in it, not only just watching it, but even financially investing in women's sports. All right, well, we are fully in March now. And I'm interested to know, like, what are you looking most forward to in March? I know we're here for the Natty. I know that's like the end goal, but what are some of the other things that you're looking forward to?
Truthfully, I would say for me, like just capturing the whole March for me, and obviously beginning of April and stuff. I would say just like, it sounds so corny, but like just hanging out with my teammates really and like experiencing this with them. I obviously clearly have a YouTube channel and I capture everything. I would say just like documenting the journey, obviously winning and going along that route. But I would like just say like spending time with my teammates, us hanging out in the hotels, and doing funny challenges and like TikToks. Like those are like the fun moments. Like those are the moments that like I'll miss. We're gonna remember the games, the ones that we won, the practices and all that. But like what really sticks is like the interactions you have with your teammates. So that's like what I'm looking most forward to doing. It's just like kicking it at the hotel and stuff.
Yeah. And we've been very future forward about talking about your teammates, but I do want to know, like, as the season, we're in postseason now, but as the season is wrapping up shortly, can you think about some of the ways that you all have grown, either collectively or individually, that you've noticed?
Oh, I feel like we kicked it off from like the jump. I mean, I would say like we are closer, right? I honestly would say like we were all pretty close from the beginning. I mean, obviously like we had a lot of new people coming in, so it was like people, we had grad transfers and we had a lot of freshmen. Then we have returners like myself, Rhea, Malia, AG, like a bunch of people, it's Clarice, people that are already here. Honestly, like we're close from the beginning. Like our personalities just clicked from the jump. So I would say there wasn't really much like growth. But I would say on the court, if we're gonna talk on the court, I would say like our collectiveness has grown a lot. We were able to like win like really hard games and really tough environments. Specifically on the road, it's really hard to win on the road, especially in a new conference where our coaches didn't even know the teams that were playing because they're so used to the Pac-12, right? And so now we're in the Big Ten. But I would just see like the growth of like everybody really takes ownership of like what they can do better. Like if a teammate feels like I could have talked to you better, they're gonna come up to you and say that. Like they're gonna acknowledge that. And I feel like that is really important too because dynamics matter and like relationships matter and being able to figure out where you could be better, improvement individually first and then collectively is what's gonna really changes everything for sure.
So we talked about the growth, we talked about the collectiveness, we talked about how close you all are on and off the court. What can we expect within these next coming weeks?
To win a lot. Yeah, definitely to win. You're gonna see us have fun as well while we win, but to win, like that's the main goal is to win a bunch of games and to get to Tampa. That's the main goal.
That's the main goal. And we also have another goal in May because you're going to graduate very soon.
Yes.
And I'm not one to ask a senior, like, what's next to come for you? Because I know that there's a lot of ambiguity there. Mm-hmm. But what are some of the things that you're most excited about as you transition out?
I would say like really honing in on like everything I'm already doing, podcast, my YouTube channel, the player association stuff. And then I'm obviously transferring, so going to a new school, experiencing that and, being able to play because I redshirted this year. So being able to play at my new school and get my master's. Honestly, I'm really just going to have fun with the process. I sat out a whole year of basketball, so I'm really looking forward to playing again because like I'm ready. Like I'm ready to suit up. But I know, my time will come. And I'm ready for it when it does. So I would say just getting back on the court and then continue to grow the endeavors that I'm already in and continue to make more memories as time goes on.
And what other, I mean, your temperament, like just to hear how you are, there's like a calmness and an assurance that things will work out as you figure them out. Where does that come from?
God, honestly. Like, I mean, I would 100% say God, but I also say like just knowing like everything works out. Like I always talk to my teammates, I'd be stressed out. And I'm just like, what am I stressing for? Like it always ends up working out. Like no matter how bad a situation might be, like I always believe that like if it's bad right now or if it's bad in my perspective, something else, some's gonna come later. Like it's just preparing me for something great. Like that's like me not playing basketball this year allowed me to invest in so many other areas of my life that is going to pay dividends. And I still worked my butt off in basketball, like still training every day. And I just know like not playing this year, it's like I know I'm gonna have a great year next year on the court as well. So I think I just have trust. I have trust in God. I have trust in myself. I have trust in my discipline, my preparation, my habits, my mind, the people, my circle. And I feel like that's what gives me confidence. I just have the right people around me that are telling me the truth, telling me what I need to hear. And yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also a Christian. And so I remember there was times where I tried to do things on my own and realized that that don't work out. It doesn't work out at all. And I think where there's this like sense of surrenderance and knowing that I may not know the plans, but I trust in the one who does, right. I think makes all the difference. And so I'm really happy to hear that that's your state of mind, especially as you're about to graduate and you're transitioning to a new school pretty soon. And my last question is there's a segment that we end with where it says what I wish I would have known. And so thinking from that perspective, what is something that you wish you would have known prior to becoming a student athlete in college?
It's a business. Like it's strictly business. I mean, yeah, it's a business and you got to treat it as such. Like I treat like every time I go to my practice like a job. Like it's a job interview, like how I show up every day matters. Even if I don't feel like showing up, how I interact with my teammate matters, how I interact with my coaches matters. And it's just preparing me for having a professional career wherever I go, basketball or just like, in like a regular corporate life or just like what I'm doing. But I would say it's a business, but then I'll also say like every day does really matter. Like how you show up matters. Like how you show up every day is what's going to give people confidence to invest in you or not, or believe in you or not, put their trust in you or not. And I think taking pride in showing up every day, your best self, and whatever areas you can grow in, grow, and don't be reluctant. Don't try to like fight it. Just like, okay, it may not be what you want to hear, but you need to hear it, and just take what comes with it, and really develop and grow from there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that we were able to get you on the pod within a week. This is like a record for us, because it usually takes a couple of weeks to a month. But I'm glad that you were so eager to be on the podcast. You were so generous with your time. And so I really appreciate it. And I'm wishing you nothing but the best for not only within March Madness and with your team, but beyond that.
Yes, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Of course. And thank you all for tuning in. And as always, we are uncovering who we are one step at a time, and we're unfolding at our own pace. And we're always exactly where we need to be. Take care, everyone.